Let me say yeah. Let me say yeah.
We're back a little sooner than later. Like last time, took us about 6 years to do an episode, and here we are again. When was it? Like, not even a week ago?
Yeah, I was near the tail end of round 1. I think we had went from gearing up for the playoffs to the end of round 1.
Yeah.
So,
So here we are, back in the cheap seats.
mhm.
We are a couple games into round two already, but that's okay. That's how we roll. My co-host Jimmy Ward, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Kind of a weird schedule for round 2 because we had the game 1 going Sunday afternoon and then game 7 of the first round also going, and then obviously tonight only one game. I mean, and then tomorrow the Rangers will play game 2 before Canucks and Oilers even play game 1. So it's what happens when you got the NBA and the NHL teams. A lot of these teams
I
have two
heard,
teams that are still in it.
yeah, and I heard something about like Vancouver didn't anticipate making the playoffs, so they like rented the arena out to for like concerts and stuff like that. So, which like,
That,
kind of makes sense,
that's it.
but
That's interesting. Well, it's
yeah,
kind of funny that I don't think uh I don't think Madison Square Garden expected the Knicks and Rangers both to have home court in the second round or home ice, right? So yeah, bit of a scheduling mess. And also the Mavericks are still in the NBA as well as the Dallas Stars. So it's a bit of a mess, but hey, you know what? At least every night there's at least one game on, so I'm happy.
exactly. It's a good time to be a sports fan. And hey, I said I had a little surprise for you, bud, and it's playoff time. And it wouldn't be
Mhm.
playoff time without one of our favorite songs. Really pumps you up for playoffs, bud. It's
What is
nostalgic.
it?
It makes you feel like you're a kid again. Can you not hear it?
I can't. There's nothing coming
Oh,
through.
that's too bad.
I bet you I know what it is though. It's the chance may never come again on
You
CBC,
got it,
isn't it?
buddy.
I promise you that we will.
I want you to
That will
put
be
this as
our.
our intro song.
Okay, I'll make you a better deal. Okay, that'll be our outro to the episode after the finals.
After the finals?
After the finals.
All right. Well, maybe for some fluke reason people can hear this playing right now. If not,
There's
whatever. But
there was nothing coming through. I love it though. I
oh, come on.
absolutely love it.
Anyways, if
That's
you're if
okay. I
you're from
like
our
it.
area, you know that song. And the chance may never come again. Give me a verse,
Oh,
Jimmy. Come on.
for, oh, oh. I just want to say to our viewers, Phil is the voice of an angel. So, do you remember Step Brothers, where he's like, he hears him sing for the first time?
Yeah.
Oh, oh, that's good.
Uh,
All right, Phil,
anyways,
want to get
yeah,
right
well, the
into it, or
chance
what?
may never come again. Yeah, and this chance this year for the Toronto Maple Leafs is over. And it may never come again for some of those guys. They blew
Mhm.
it. They made a series of it. They went to game seven. There's a lot of talk about Mitch Marner. There's a lot of talk about yeah, Morgan Riley, Samsonov. And what I'm referring to is that overtime goal. I don't know if you caught the overtime goal or not. That was a beautiful
I
set
did.
play by the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
Um, who's that on in your opinion?
To me, it'd be Morgan Riley. Um, the way the play developed, like I know a lot of people were mad at Mitch Marner because Pasternak had blew by him, but in reality, Marner's not the F3 is not a F3 in that situation. So basically Pasternak came flying in. But Riley's got to get first guy through, right? Like he's last man back, and they got to recognize that he's coming in with some speed. And to be honest, Riley was just a little late.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, that's just fatigue. When you're in a 7 game series and then you're into overtime and that, and you're tired, it was just a mental error. There was no communication on who was going to pick up Pasternak, but in reality, I think that's Morgan Riley's guy. I don't put that goal on Marner at all. I feel like it's the defenseman's responsibility to pick up that first guy flying through the zone there. So, and you can see it, like he was just late getting to him.
All I could think of is playing, low div ball hockey with mutual friend Lane Larson and him yelling from the bench, "Who you got?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was it was a smart play too because, um, you know, like you said, like it was definitely a set play, but he kind of slingshotted through the far side there, almost made it look like he was that third guy, but he was actually the second guy in, and I think they had three back. So I think Nylander was on the far side, if I remember right, and defenseman was also on the far side, trying to take away his own entry, and they just dumped it in off the back wall, and Pasternak came flying in, and really that's Riley's guy. So
Yeah, and then Kelly Rudy also made a comment that night on the panel about how deep Samsonov was in his net. Obviously he
well,
probably wasn't anticipating that thing to pop right out and for Pasternak to just kind of blow in there at 100 miles an hour and pick it up, right?
I think like
It
Samsonov
happened
probably
very
should,
fast.
yeah, Samsonov probably should have like got a stick on that to the corner after it came off the wall. I think he had enough time for sure, but like I said, I think it was a mentally tired mistake on a number of people. Could Marner have slowed him up? Maybe. But what happens if he goes to slow him up? He steps in his lane when he's sort of flat, he's not really moving as fast as Pasternak. All of a sudden he hauls him down, right? They go
Yeah,
to
you'd rather
power
take a
play
penalty
and
than
yeah,
get scored on though.
99 times like nobody's running, like that's never that guy's responsibility. Like he's looking and sees Riley and Samsonov back, right? Like you think one
Yeah.
of them would have made a play on it, but they didn't. And unfortunately, he was the whipping boy all series because of some of the questionable efforts in dodging hits or taking different routes to the puck where he doesn't have to take a hit. And a
Do you
lot of
do you
people think
think
that maybe he doesn't have what it takes to play in the playoffs.
yeah, and
That's
so
that's the narrative, right?
but now I look back at the Toronto Maple Leafs playoffs, and unfortunately for Canada, it's over. Another Canadian team booted out of the playoffs. Much to the delight of all of our Oiler fan friends, the Leafs are out. But I look at the Leafs in this playoffs, and what do you think? Like Austin Matthews was playing at like 50%, 60%. And I also go like to Nylander. What was he playing at? Like 60%, 70%, 80%. Like those guys, they were obviously banged up. They were obviously not 100%. Whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know. But it goes back to what we've been saying and harping on for the last um 3, 4 episodes about, if you can stay healthy, like the Oilers have stayed healthy, you're going to be obviously you're going to be in better shape. So like
Mhm.
how do you think that affected the Maple Leafs?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think most teams are banged up around this time. You could probably go down every single lineup, and there's probably a number of very good players that are probably hovering around 80%. I just think in Toronto it gets magnified. I think I think nobody wanted to say it, but I think a lot of people thinks that maybe they should have tried to do more or play through it a little more as
Hmm.
compared to maybe some other players. Like you look at like a Matthew Tkachuk, who I mean, didn't he played with a pretty serious injury, right?
Well,
For
the
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 Florida
comment
Panthers.
was that like Brady was living with her in the finals and had to like help him up out of bed and help him get dressed in the morning.
Yeah,
That's how
like
hurt he was. And you made a
so
comment
when
too last week about Mark Stone's probably playing hurt too.
yeah, 100%. He was playing hurt. I remember one year in the playoffs, Ryan McDonough blocked a shot early in a game seven. Went back and got it. He broke his foot, and he basically went back, got it frozen, and finished the game. Crosby's played with a ton of injuries. There were a lot of guys in the Tampa team in 22 that played. The injury list
Even
came out.
Draisaitl last season with his high ankle
Dr-
sprain too.
That's wild to me. And what he did on
Yeah.
one ankle as well is just absolutely wild. And so when you see guys missing games now, like they'll start to question, like, well, if these guys can battle through it and they're, like Kachuk goes all the way to the finals and is probably pretty banged up going there. It's like, well, why can't our guys do it? Is that
Hmm.
fair? Maybe not. I mean, everyone's a little different, but it starts to make you question, can these guys play 4 rounds? Do they have to be 90, 95% in order to stay in the lineup, whereas other stars maybe might be 75, 80%.
Well, in the ball hockey world, you yourself, Jimmy, you're kind of known as a band-aid. So you know,
Yeah,
you wouldn't
yeah.
know what it's like to play through pain, bud.
I played through quite a bit actually. I got a lot of braces on,
Well, the
especially
fact that
during
you're
the
not making millions of dollars too, makes it a little easier
that's
to
also
miss a
true.
game here and there.
Oh, yeah, I miss money if I miss work. So, but
So
yeah,
yeah, we don't need to stick on Toronto too long. I just had those couple of thoughts with those
mhm.
guys. Yeah, obviously our predictions were correct with the Dallas Stars taking out the Vegas Golden Knights. The defending cup champions, they go down in 7 games to Dallas. Dallas is looking pretty good. Um,
Best team in the Western Conference,
heavyweight,
in my opinion.
heavyweight, heavyweight
Hmm.
tilt coming up here against Colorado.
Yeah.
How do you think Dallas kind of pulled it together there and got through Vegas?
Well, Jake Ottinger finally, woke up after 2 games. That series should have been over in 5. I think if Ottinger comes out strong, they win the series in 5. I never, even when Vegas, like after Dallas made it 2-1, I was like, they're gonna win the series. Obviously, if they'd fallen 3-0, I think it would have been an impossible task. But once they kind of got to 2-1, I was like, yeah, they're okay now. Like they're a couple shaky games, and Vegas is still a pretty good team. So that's a tough, probably one of the better 8 seeds we've ever seen in the Western Conference. And
Yep.
I, I just think Dallas was just too good. They weren't going to lose that series. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, you got a
I
pretty
just
big
like look
heavyweight
at
tilt coming up.
this and like look at that lineup in like Dallas. Like Wyatt Johnson's got 4 goals.
Hmm.
And like where did this kid come from?
Dallas knows where to find them, and they've done such a good job drafting and developing players into their lineup. You just even Logan Stankoven. It's another one, obviously Jake Ottinger, Miro Heiskanen. Uh,
Yeah.
they make the trade. Niels Lundqvist haven't played a whole lot, but that was a trade with the Rangers to get a younger prospect D, and then they surround them with good veterans. Joe Pavelski. I know Sagan and Ben are making probably a little too much, but those are some good veterans. Matt Duchene's still a good player. Uh, Mason Marchment, and then they got guys who are hurt, right? Like Mason Marchment's out of the lineup right now. Rupe Hintz, probably the most underrated superstar in the league. And it's just top to bottom, like 12 forwards and 60 and a goalie. They're just that deep. They can
Yep.
roll with anyone. And like I said, they're my pick to come out of the Western Conference. So,
And yeah, they
so
uh
I'm,
they take out Vegas again. Another big jump for joy for Oiler fans when Vegas got knocked out this year.
yeah.
We kind of touched on this last episode about how everybody was calling them cheaters and the whole LTIR thing. But
Hmm.
it's like you said, it's in the CBA, and I had a friend over the other day, and we were talking about it, and they're like, so like Evander Kane could have gone on LTIR right till the playoffs, and then they could have put him in the lineup. And I said, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah. I mean,
it's one of those things. Like,
I've had those discussions. I mean, obviously, doctors are involved. The league doctors are involved, checking in on things. It's not like you can just, stash a guy on LTIR for no reason. But people don't seem to believe that. And I mean, the online world just shouts and shouts and shouts and shouts, and that's it. So,
well, speaking of online, let's move into this second round. Let's start with the Oilers and the Canucks.
mm.
I think like there's been comments online about like people are gonna get canceled before this series even starts on social media.
You know, it's really it's really unfortunate because hold on, Philly, I just gotta shut my door here. It's really unfortunate because I know a lot of Oiler fans, obviously, and I know a few Canuck fans, and the Canuck fans that I know are good human beings. Okay, the Oiler fans that I know, you know, are good human beings. Some delusional, absolutely. Um, but when you get online and on Twitter, it's got to be just the most unhinged place I've ever seen.
It's
And the
called
series
X
hasn't even
now, Jimmy.
started. Well, whatever. It hasn't even started. Like the series hasn't started. I don't know how many like I don't know what it's going to be chaos by the end. I
I don't
try to
think it
stay
was
off
this
it.
vile for the Battle of Alberta series 2 years ago.
No, no, not at all. I think Flames and Oilers fans, as much as they go at it, I still thought they were pretty civil compared to this. And it was not even game one yet. And the funny thing is they're the exact same fan base. Like
Yeah, they just cheer for a different team.
they're equally as obnoxious. It's just from an outsider's perspective. Like I get it. Every fan base has its, where you're just like, my goodness, I can't believe you cheer for this team, or I can't believe you're a fellow fan or whatever, you know. But these guys just, I feel like their full-time job is just to tweet nonsense. Like it's
Yeah,
wild to me.
it is wild. And then you like see like an 8-year-old kid like yelling like F he's like yelling F Zach Hyman, F McDavid. And then he throws like F Jack Campbell. Like why would he say that?
Yeah,
Poor Jack
just leave
Campbell's
Jack.
like
Yeah, leave.
chilling and he's like, "What?"
Just he's in Bakersfield, man. Leave him alone. So I don't know. It's whatever these guys do this stuff for clicks and hits and viral videos. It's not my thing. I mean, I'd rather have a civil discussion with a fan than chirp or say this or that or troll. Like it's just not my thing.
Well,
Like have an
enough with the
intellectual
fans.
discussion. Yeah.
Enough with the fans. Let's get on to the hockey. So how do you see this series going? We came in like Vancouver got that first spot in the Pacific. They kind of went like bell to bell this season, top of the Pacific. They did kind of have a little lull at the end where the Oilers made it close. Um, but they were able to close it out. They do have home ice advantage. Like I said before we recorded, I think that's the reason why the schedule is kind of messed up is I heard Vancouver didn't anticipate being in the playoffs, especially in the second round. So they
Mm.
rented Rogers Arena out to some cons, probably Michael Bublé or something. I don't know. But anyways, um, so yeah, they like Vancouver also 4-0 against the Oilers this season. Not that regular season means anything when it comes to playoffs. Why all of a sudden are the Canucks underdogs in this series?
Well, if you look at the beginning of the season, they came out to a very, very hot start. A lot of that was they were shooting at a very high shooting percentage and also getting incredible goaltending at the same time, which is how PDO is calculated. So you could say they're on a PDO heater. Once those numbers start to sort of level off, you'll see a decrease in production or results, as you could say. Also, Elias Pettersson got off to a really good start. Miller, their superstars were just at their very peak. Pettersson hasn't been as good. Um, towards the end of the season and even through the series against Nashville. Demko gets hurt, Casey DeSmith gets hurt for a bit, and now they're going between, looking like they're going to go with Artie Shelofs, I believe his name is.
Artie, bud,
Um,
Artie.
yeah, Artie. Yeah, Artie. So he's going to come in and he's a third string goalie. He played some good games against the Nashville Predators there, but this is a goalie in the AHL whose save percentage is around 900, which isn't very good. So you got to wonder if at some point does he continue this sort of hot streak or does he fall off the map? Kind of reminds me when Akira Schmid came in for the Devils against the Rangers last year and was absolutely incredible, helped the Devils win that series. But I think you're just starting to see sort of like once the shooting percentage is coming back to a normal NHL range, you're now seeing the Canucks struggle to score goals. And I just think that the way the Predators series went and the way they struggled to score, I think that that's going to be a big time problem. And I mean, UC Saros wasn't really himself either, so it's not like he really was the reason that the Canucks couldn't score. And with the way Stuart Skinner's playing, mixed with the fact that the Oilers are going to play at a much higher pace, I don't have a lot of confidence that Vancouver can overcome that and potentially win 4 of 7. In fact,
So
I
what do
think
you
it'll
have
be a
this?
short
What do you have
series.
this going to?
5 games. Yeah,
Oilers in
I
5?
think they'll. Yeah, Oilers in 5.
So I 100% agree with you. I feel like you read my notes. You probably cheated. So anyways, no, I agree. I look at the Oilers. I felt like, they could play, they could score at will. That power play is absolutely on fire right now. That was another thing that I kind of sent to the group today was that, Rick Tocchet met with the series supervisors today, and a lot of the discussion was on the embellishment. Um,
Mhm.
so obviously Rick Tocchet must be quite concerned about that power play, which rightfully so, you should be.
I would
Um,
be.
yeah, no, absolutely. So, I agree. I feel like, the Canucks scoring troubles, uh, versus the Oilers scoring in droves. I have this as a sweep for the Oilers 4-0.
Wow. Yeah.
And
I think if LA could sneak one out, I think Vancouver could. The big thing for the Canucks though is if they want any chance in this series is they're going to have to pressure up ice. If I were to pick one area where the Oilers might be a bit susceptible to possibly a bit of trouble is if they can put heat on those bottom 40,
yeah,
Kulak, CC, Nurse, Darnay. They really have to they force them to make plays. I think is their only chance. Because, Ekholm and Bouchard are pretty good at getting that puck out. And I think if you can get a lot of heat on those forts, I think the problem with LA is they sat back in that 1-3-1. And you know what? The 1-3-1 can be effective. There are teams that play a variation of it from time to time. The Rangers will play or an example, they'll play 1-3-1 and they'll also play a heavy forecheck depending on time of the game or whatever lines out, they'll switch it up. But when you're playing a team like the Oilers with that kind of pace, you can't allow them that much speed through the neutral zone. So really, to prevent that, they're gonna have to really push heavy up ice. A lot
yeah.
of pressure on the D,
And
but there's risks in that too.
friend of the podcast, we're hoping to get him on a lot more often. Nick Nosebleed, Philadelphia Flyer fan. He has the Oilers in 5 in this one as well. Um,
Yeah,
so let us move on to I think one of the biggest tilts. If it wasn't for where their divisions are or where they kind of line up, it could be a Stanley Cup final. Dallas, Colorado. Both I could see both of these teams winning the Stanley Cup this year. Um, what's gonna happen in this series?
well, Like I said, I obviously I'm taking the Dallas Stars. I took them to win the Western Conference, so they're going to be my pick probably all the way through, regardless. Would I be surprised if the Colorado Avalanche won? No, I wouldn't. It wouldn't be like a big upset to me. Obviously, they're another team that just skated, Winnipeg into the ground, and we talk about that up ice pressure, right? Winnipeg's defense just had no answer for it, and Colorado's come in droves and droves and droves. And I think that'll be a challenge for the Stars, although I think their defense is a lot more mobile and can make a lot more plays under pressure. They felt it against a heavy Vegas Golden Knights team who also like to forecheck. I just think the difference in this series, if I'm looking at it when I start to break it down, and I haven't broken down a lot of the numbers in terms of power play, penalty kill, all that stuff, but I just look at Ottinger versus Georgiev, and I just think, you know, I think to me that's going to be the difference. I think goaltending will be the difference, and I think Ottinger is the better goalie. And if you had to give a percentage, I'd say like 51-49 in favor of Dallas. It's going to be very, very close, but I'm going Stars in 7 also with the home ice there. I believe they have home
So
ice. Yeah.
I look at a team like Winnipeg, I look at a team like Dallas, and I see some similarities when it comes to like their depth, when it comes to their goaltending. And I thought Winnipeg was going to put up a bigger fight against Colorado. Um, Hellebuck just said in an interview, he had a really hard time tracking pucks and finding pucks, and before he knew it, they were in the back of his net. So I feel like if Colorado can play that way and keep playing that way, I think that's their only hope of beating Dallas. I do feel like Dallas is probably a little stronger because of their goaltending. I never count out Nathan McKinnon, never count out a guy like Cale Makar. Um, so I'm gonna go off the board here a little bit. I'm gonna say Colorado in 7 for that series.
Yeah. I mean, you could be completely right, right? Like it's like if the Avalanche win, it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm surprised. I
Right.
just think that I think when people compare Winnipeg to Dallas, I just think Dallas's defense is a lot better in
Yes.
terms of being able to box out those forwards. Like if you look at, Heiskanen, Harley, Lindell, Tanev, and then you've got Suter and Hakanapaa. Like not only are these guys, they can play that grindy style, but they can also move. And that's a big one. I've always been a fan of defensemen, not just being big, but also mobile and can move the puck and can, like when the puck gets dumped in, like they can go back and get it, move it, take a hit. Like they're not going to be bullied off that puck. I just feel like some of Winnipeg's defensemen, when that pressure came, had a really difficult time with that. So I guess that'll be the test. If Dallas's defense can't do that, it's going to be a lot of trouble for them. And of course, Jake Ottinger have to be at his best. And Georgiev can't have any mishaps. Like he can't go 1 or 2 games where he decides he's letting in 7 goals. So
You're very
I'm going
familiar
Dallas.
with
You're
him.
going Avalanche. I am. Yep.
Yeah.
The good, bad,
Uh,
the ugly, right? You don't know what you're gonna get.
yeah. And Nick Nosebleed took Stars in 6. Well, we've lost Jimmy here for a
No,
minute.
I'm
There,
I'm still here. There we
you're
go.
back. All right, we're back. We're
Good.
okay. The joys
Yeah.
of technology.
I'm not
Yeah,
even gonna
so
edit that out.
yeah, it's okay. We don't need to edit it out. Just it
Yeah,
is what it is. I don't know if anyone heard me,
perfect.
but Nick
Yeah.
Nosebleed has Stars in 6. Let's move to Panthers and Boston. Boston just absolutely smoked Florida tonight, 5-1.
hmm
Um, Boston coming off obviously an emotional win against Toronto. How do you see the Florida Panthers versus Boston Bruins series going?
Well, bad timing, but I had the Panthers steamrolling the Bruins, but obviously game one went the other way. I still think Florida will win the series. I have them in 5 games. If it wasn't for Swayman tonight, I think that game would have been over early. Boston had obviously a lot of pressure. I thought Bobrovsky played good for a bit, and then kind of the floodgates opened, and maybe had kind of an off night in the second half of that game. But I still think I have a tough time seeing the Bruins beating the Panthers 4 times, just considering how much trouble they sort of had with a Toronto team that is certainly much more inferior to Florida. And Florida having more rest. Maybe tonight was a case of, Boston had the legs and had already been playing, and Florida had been sitting for a while, mixed with Swayman having an incredible game. And give Boston credit, they found a way and grinded out a win after a pretty emotional game 7 win. So, but I still have, will Florida rattle off 4 straight now? Well, I mean, if I was being honest, I said Panthers in 5 before game 1, so I'll stick with that, but I wouldn't be
You got to
surprised now
stick
if
with
this
it,
goes
bud.
maybe 6. I'm sticking with it. 4 straight for the Cats.
All right.
I still
So
think they're too good.
yeah, I agree with you. I think the Florida Panthers are going to take this series in 6 games. That is it's simply the same reason you said. You looked at Boston; they looked fragile against Toronto. Um, especially, I watched that whole game 7, and I personally think Toronto actually deserved to win that game. I thought they were the better team, but again, I know you always say it, goaltending. Like
Hmm.
Swayman looked sharp against Toronto. He looked sharp tonight again against Florida. Um, and Florida's good. Like Florida's a very good team.
Hmm.
Not taking anything away from Boston, but like they're far removed from their President's Trophy win last year. Like they've lost the Krejcis, they lost the Bergerons.
They lost their
Um,
2 top centers, which
yeah,
usually
exactly.
would
So
decimate a club. So I give them credit to get back to where they are.
yeah,
Obviously they have a great
absolutely.
culture and good team structure. So
So yeah, I said Panthers in 6. Um, I got that one extra game than you, so you better hope for a four in a row here. I said 6, so there you go. Our friend of the podcast, Nick Nosebleed, said Panthers in 7. We're gonna wrap up really quick. We've got just a few minutes left on your beloved New York Rangers. Um, what did I message you yesterday? I said, what a time for Mika Zibanejad to get going. Mika Zibanejad, just so everybody knows, is one of my favorite all-time players. I love his style. I love how he plays. And when that guy's going, look out. He is a top player in the NHL, in my opinion, when he is rolling. And yeah, how do you kind of surprised me with your prediction here. Why don't you fill everyone in?
I said the Carolina Hurricanes in 6. To be honest, it's really unfortunate. Obviously, I'm a massive Rangers fan. I hope they win this series. I'm happy they won game 1. Do I think they can win the series? Absolutely. When I start to sort of look at the probability, I love Rod the Bod. I love what he's done in Carolina. I love the way his team plays. They play a nice up tempo pace. They shoot for rebounds. Um, they have a really good team concept over there. And one of the things, like, the Rangers in Carolina have always played tight, but I just felt when they picked up Gensel and they picked up Kuznetsov, I really felt like finally the one thing they were missing was some offense. Like, in those tight games when you need a guy to put the puck in the net, I just felt like they never had that. Maybe outside of Svechnikov, but and a lot of people talk about Aho, but Aho to me feels a lot like Zibanejad. He's a great two-way center. Does a little bit of everything, but they never been able to get over that hump. And their special teams all year were consistently both in the top 3, much like the Rangers. So I thought special teams would be a wash, and so it came down to the strong play of the Carolina Hurricanes 5-on-5 versus can Igor overcome that. And I just gave the edge to the Canes just because I think, over time, I thought this is what it would come down to. I think the 5-on-5 play of the Carolina Hurricanes and sort of the Rangers struggles at 5-on-5, even though it improved quite a bit after the deadline. Um, that's a heavyweight tilt too in the Eastern Conference. Like what a series that's going to be. But yeah, I think the reason why I said 6 as well is I think if it goes to 7, the Rangers are not losing at the Garden.
Fair
And
enough.
and Carolina's very strong at home as well.
I think Igor is up for it. Um,
Hmm.
I have the Rangers in 6. Um,
I mean, I hope you're right. For my sake, I really do.
yeah.
I
I
try to put my
just
fandom aside. I really do try to put my fandom aside. I so badly want them to win, but
well, obviously,
yeah,
you do.
yeah,
Like you
yeah.
ask any Oiler fans, and they've already won the cup. Like so,
And it's not like a lack of faith. Like I do believe they can win. Obviously, 2 for 2 on the power play. They killed 5 penalties off with Carolina. So obviously they won the special teams war, and that was the difference in the game. Igor really didn't have to, he wasn't overly tested. I think he only had 20, 23 shots on net. A couple of them weren't
yeah.
his fault. So,
Um,
I think good job on the Rangers for getting that first one out of the way.
yeah, no, I agree, and I thought they looked good, and like I said, like I feel like if Zibanejad can get going, and if Igor can do his thing, like I think they're in good shape, Jimmy. So, I got to give credit where credit's due for to the New
Hmm.
York Rangers. They're looking good. Uh, Nick says Rangers in 6 as well. So we've got 2 minutes left. I just want to talk to you really quick about this. We had a quick discussion yesterday about officiating in these playoffs. I kind of said to you, I feel like the referees aren't really putting their whistles away as much as maybe we've seen in the past in the playoffs. And you had one example with the Empire State Building.
Well, I think I also mentioned that penalties over the last few years have gone up in the playoffs because there was this narrative like they don't call them, but they actually call them more. Yeah, good example. He gets shoved into Frederick Anderson by Jordan. I think it was Jordan Stahl shoved him in yesterday, and then the arm went up, and I'm like, I'm not one who gets on the officials, but I'm like, that's definitely not a penalty. But I think there are certain players like him who have just a massive target on their back, and it's really hard to hide when you're 6'8.5" on skates, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I find the
Something
officiating,
to watch, right?
yeah.
Like we kind of talked in our group chat about even that Oilers LA game, that last game. Like, I didn't feel like the Kings were gonna win the game, and I didn't feel like the officiating was a result of the Oilers win, but there were some pretty weak calls there, and to put the Oilers on the power play right now is half 50% chance they're gonna score.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't a bad fan of the officiating in that fifth game either.
So
I feel like it's been really it's just been like sort of inconsistent. Like game to game, you're not really sure how it's going to be called, or I think for the most part, I think NHL officials do a pretty good job. It's a very
yeah,
difficult job. If you can
well,
yell at them all you want, but there's nobody coming in to replace them. So anybody that you think is going to be better is going to be substantially worse.
absolutely. On that
So
note,
Hey, folks, I think what Phil was trying to say was on that note, we're going to end today's episode of the Cheap Seats podcast just before his internet went out. See you guys next episode.